Hello, and welcome to another special episode of UX Boost Pills. Today I'm joined by Haladjian, a UX researcher at TomTom, a company of digital navigation software creators whose goal is to make digital navigation accessible to everyone. Thank you, Harry, for joining me today. I'm so excited to get to know more about your background in cognitive science, how that relates to your UX work, and your experiences working at TomTom. Can you start off by telling me and our viewers, how did you get into UX research, and how did you end up working at TomTom?
So how did I get into UX research? I guess the easiest question or easiest answer to that question is that I've always been a researcher. I think I fell into that straight after undergraduate with a degree in philosophy and psychology. So I just went into research and then got a PhD in cognitive science. And then after a few postdocs, I just wanted to continue focusing on research and in a more applied way. And then I ended up had the opportunity to do UX research at Trivago. And then that led me to TomTom after that position. So I've only been doing UX research for about 4 years, but it's kind of a natural progression in my cognitive science research track.
It's not often that we fall into what we're passionate about or what we realize is our calling right after studies. So that's pretty awesome for you. And I wish that among all of our viewers. So that leads me to my next question. What's your favorite thing about your job as a UX researcher?
I think my favorite thing is trying to understand human behavior. So we always come up with all of these different challenges of trying to know what the user wants or what the user needs and how they perceive their interactions with a certain product. So whether this is web or an actual physical product. So I think this curiosity, trying to understand how the mind works, is the thing that drives me for trying to in UX research.
Thank you. I'm sure a lot of our budding UX researchers will have that resonate with them as well. So next question, what's your focus as a researcher at TomTom?
Basically, I'm working on different aspects of navigation products. So some things are kind of in the works, and others are apps and websites that are already up there. But right now, I'm basically trying to improve the search experience. I'm working with the product team on that. But then otherwise, it's all different aspects of navigation just navigation, improving the navigation experience.
Thanks. That leads me to my next question. What kinds of problems do you most like solving at work?
I think it's trying to understand the users that are very diverse because they use products in so many different ways, especially navigation products. And it's a global company, so you have a global market. I mean, even when you think as simply as left hand versus right hand driving cars, you also come up with different problems there. So it's really this big challenge of trying to make a product that is customizable to each person and understanding each person. So that's the biggest challenge. So it's very it's very engaging, I would say.
Never short of an interesting problem to solve. That's cool. All right, next one's more of a detailed question, but what would you say is the most important thing to be aware of when collaborating as a UX researcher with other roles in UX teams?
So I think, I mean, we all hear this, that you need your stakeholder buy-in. So that's an important thing to get it right. And I think being involved in defining the roadmap and anticipating what research is going to come up in the future is one of the more important things that you can do as a UX researcher. Uh, it's not always easy to do this, but being involved, trying to be involved as much as possible, and then also involving your stakeholders in like workshopping ideas or diving deeper into the research insights. I think that helps with getting the buy-in and getting them engaged. And I think that helps make the product or make your insights more actionable and more likely to be implemented.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Next off, can you tell us what foundational research is and why it's important?
Yeah, foundational research, I think you can think of it as a more exploratory, more generative. I mean, it's like a broader research that involves the whole experience of the user and not necessarily in contrast to like validation research where you're just testing a certain design or a certain concept. So in foundational research, you get a more deeper and kind of maybe more longer lasting understanding of your user. So it's a little bit more foundational in that way. So it's more in depth, I would say, than the
Thanks.
validation research.
Thanks for explaining that. And now, going to your background in cognitive science, how would you relate cognitive science to the field of user experience?
I think one thing that was a great appeal to me for cognitive science was that it's such an interdisciplinary study. So it involves people from linguistics, from philosophy, from computer science, from cognitive psychology, among others. So it's a very interdisciplinary team, and you have different perspectives that help shape understanding and research on the human mind. And I think in user research, you do also have this interdisciplinary approach. It's a little different, of course, because you're dealing with maybe the mechanics of what is feasible from a developer perspective, as well as the business goals and the trying to make trying to support the success of the business goals, and then also trying to understand the user in a variety of ways. So it's definitely having this interdisciplinary approach, I think, helps shape how you can do your research and how you can kind of shape the research that you're doing.
Thanks for that thorough answer. All right, next one is I want to know what your favorite research method is at work and why you like using it.
Um, well, I think I would say that I would like a mixed method approach. So this is not necessarily one thing, but it's trying to combine quantitative research with more qualitative research to get the more fuller understanding. So in the qualitative aspect, I do like the unmoderated online tests that we do, because you do get quick turnaround on responses, and you can test an actual product that's live, and maybe there's an A/B test happening so that you can direct this different users to the different version of the thing you're testing, and then you can better understand the why in the numbers of the A/B test with the qualitative research. So this kind of mixed methods approach, I think, is really cool when it's appropriate and when you can make it work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One thing I've learned now, dabbling in the field of UX as a writer, is that validation and sample sizes are very important and often overlooked. So, yeah, mixed methods sounds like the solution. All right, next question, and one that's always hard to answer. What's been your biggest challenge as a UX researcher?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is this follow through of the insights into actionable, or you kind of try to present these actionable insights, and then just making sure that they actually are implemented is a thing that we all face, because as a researcher you tend to move from one project to the next, and you hope that the stakeholders do implement the insights that you found, because it gets frustrating that the same question comes up maybe a year later and you have already the insights that weren't put into place. So I think this is the biggest frustration that a lot of UX researchers feel.
So, next question. How do you effectively deliver research findings to your stakeholders? For instance, do you use any specific formats to deliver findings? Any tips for our viewers?
Yeah, I mean, generally, we present our findings through like a PowerPoint presentation, which can and cannot be engaging. I think the point of a PowerPoint presentation is that it's a report that can be self-explanatory for in the archive. So if someone wanted to look at what you did in the past, they can refer to that presentation. But when you present these results, you don't want to make it too much information. So the slides should be, very like simple and to the point. And I usually put the notes, like the details, if there's like analytics or anything in the notes part of the PowerPoint. But what you present is more what you want people to remember. So we use a TLDR kind of method. That's ideally how we want to do that. And another way to really communicate your findings is to try to workshop, if there's time, with the product team, to do some sort of deep dive workshop, like kind of trying to figure out the themes that are coming out from the recordings that you've made, and try to come up with solutions as a team. And I think that helps with the engagement and with increasing the understanding of your users across the product team.
That's a very good balance of both. So, next question. What are the top three skills I need to break into UX research?
Yeah, well, to be a good researcher, I think you should have a good understanding of the different methods and tools that are available for UX research, and when it's appropriate to use which ones. So, of course, that includes, some have limitations, some are very good at answering some questions, and some aren't. So, having a good understanding of that, that's a good start. I think another important thing is good storytelling skills. I think maybe in all aspects of our lives, having good storytelling makes for a more convincing delivery of the results. So that's a skill that I think is something I'm working on myself. It's an important skill to have, and maybe yeah, just being curious, just having that strong curiosity. So I think trying to understand how humans interact or behave or think, that that kind of passion I think is important to really want to delve into how your users interact with the product that you're trying to understand more about.
That makes a lot of sense. After all, we're designing for users. Now, due to the pandemic, a lot of people say there's been a surge in demand for UX research. Have you experienced this directly? And do you think this is lasting?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's directly related to the pandemic or not, but I do think there is an increase in recruitment for UX researchers. I've experienced that through LinkedIn, people reaching out even though I'm not looking for a job. But it's yeah, maybe it's time that it's come to a time where companies are realizing the importance of understanding the user as part of the product development team. So yeah, maybe this is growing, and I think it should last. I don't see why it would not.
It seems like once companies realize UX is necessary, which it is, it seems kind of strange for them to go backwards. So I guess the question sort of answers itself. All right, on to our last question. What do you envision the UX trend to be in the next 5 years? For instance, with the influence of AI, augmented reality, cryptocurrencies, and automated driving.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that we need to focus on the ethics of these different technologies, because as we've read in some places that AI can be problematic. And so keeping in mind the humanity, the human aspect of things and what the user will want is important, especially, you see these trends that are coming up and they're kind of cool, but then you also want to make sure that the user wants these things or it's safe to use these things. And yeah, just basically the usability and ethics still has to be part of it and not be forgotten, even though we are trending towards more of an automated world.
All right, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Harry, for joining
Yeah,
us
yeah.
here today in the UX Boost Pills hot seat. And I think it's suffice to say, and I speak for our viewers, that, as a cognitive scientist, it's very appropriate that you, as a student of the human mind, have expanded our minds with all your knowledge and insight. Thanks a lot again. Have a good one.